Welcome to the Earz Podcast, where the voice is loud and the reason is raw. I am your host, Dale Elliott, and I am here with Mr. Christopher Chang.
Yes, how you doing? How you doing?
All right, so for the Earz Podcast, I try to have different angles. We try to advertise different parts, especially with what going on in the current world, different people. Like advertise there is actually regular people excelling in regular professions. That is not always entertainment or sports. And Mr. Chang, I am at the FIU. I am actually in a lecture room. And Mr. Chang is a criminal. I don't want to get it wrong,
Yeah, so I'm actually a global expert on culture, but in the area of criminal justice and human rights.
Okay, so when you say that now, so we can break it down. So you basically study cultural background of criminals?
No, so what it means is that we try to, a lot of the work that we do right now is to try to humanize people who are within the criminal justice system. In the US, also in Europe, in other countries. But what that means is understanding where people come from, their culture, their background, so that we're not just looking at that person through an isolated incident that took place that they may or may not have been involved in, but we are looking at their whole life and their journey, especially when a lot of the time we are dealing with people who are not from the country where they're facing charges.
Okay. So that's basically, so in college I did something called behavioral sciences.
Mm-hmm.
Would you consider that something, so basically studying the mind or the background of whichever individual that is being prosecuted?
That's part of it. So we work with psychologists and behavioral specialists and things like that as well. But what I do is kind of understand from a really real life perspective where that person is from, where they grew up, what their parents, their grandparents, to try to understand how that journey, even the journey of their parents and generations before them, affected that person and had an impact on that person's life. So it can be quite complex, but it kind of shows what people go through. It might not be a reason for a person not to get a particular punishment, but it's a way for us to understand people who are within the criminal justice system.
Okay, so you said, speaking of background and stuff, where are you from and why did you decide to pursue this career path?
Yeah, so my parents are Jamaican.
Okay.
I was actually born in London and spent big parts of my childhood in Jamaica, and then back and forth from Jamaica with different projects. So, my father was in the music business, in the 50s and 60s.
Long time.
Yeah, long time, world time, reggae time. But my mom was, she came to England as a nurse. But she's from Kingston, she's from a fairly rough part of Kingston down by Spanish Town Road.
Okay.
And so I got to understand, where we were from as a family. And then in the UK I went to school. And then during a period after school, kind of spent some years, I would say, on the wrong part.
Like trying to find yourself, basically.
All right. Well, you see, you should be a liar because that's a good way to put it.
Trying to find your identity.
Yeah, and actually trying to work out where I was going in life led me to go back to Jamaica for a few months. To really say, let me go back to the source, and work out what I'm supposed to be doing and try to get myself on a positive track. And I actually did, and actually made it to, went back to the UK, went to university, and actually studied modern languages. which
That are like Spanish, English, or just patois and slang.
I already know that. So that was one of my languages on my CV. But no, I actually studied French. French. I was studying actually French and Spanish.
Me have a little French background, you know.
Oh, ok. Tu parles bien le français?
Un peu.
Oui, voilà. Comme un peu, c'est mieux que rien.
Comme si, comme ça.
Yeah. So, but actually, I was very interested in law. But I started studying law, and then I dropped out, and then I kept going with my languages, and then I was always interested in how to make an impact in certain communities. So actually, when I finished college, I was working in London with young people. So young people who are at risk from, being incarcerated, people who were permanently excluded from school.
Okay.
And I started to understand more things that were going on in the world. I started to read more. I started to understand what was happening. That, a lot of people, whether it's how people see them where they're from, whether they don't have the money, regardless of what they might be accused of, they don't have people to speak for them. They don't have people to advocate for them and be a voice for them.
Okay.
And a lot of the time, when they do find somebody to be a voice for them, it's not somebody that they recognize. It's not somebody who can...
Not the same shade.
Right. Exactly.
Especially outside of the Caribbean.
Right. Exactly. So, and I actually did groundbreaking work in terms of investigation on the cases of individuals who were held in Guantanamo Bay.
That's
after,
in Cuba.
Yeah, after 9/11, accused of being involved in what happened in 9/11. So, and then I got involved in working on the cases of people who are facing the death penalty, and found that in death penalty and terrorism cases, a lot of the times the defendant is not white, and the people that work on those cases don't necessarily understand where they're from, understand their culture, the music they listen to, how they dress, like the things that are important to them as communities. And so I found that teams were not always in the best position to say...
To defend whoever they're...
Yeah, because in order to defend a person well, you also have to know who that person is.
Yes.
Right? And you have to know where they come from. And so a lot of the times, that's what's missing. So it's easy for a prosecutor or even the media to label people as a thug, yardie, Haitian gang member, gangbanger, all these kind of things, because the team don't necessarily have anything else to show that maybe that's not who he is, or that's not all of who he is, even if that might be a part of who he is. He had a long journey, his family had a history. And so it's important to show that, so that we can humanize individuals and we can change how people in a courtroom think about us as people or as communities, so that if I can show that for one Jamaican person who's facing charges, I hope that the precedent will start to be set, that the next person, that they won't just think, oh, Jamaicans come to the US to get involved in drugs or them involved in violence, because actually that's not true if we look at the figures.
Yeah, if you look at the figures, the majority of Jamaicans don't come and do that.
Right. It's just how the media or how it's reported, or the way people themselves talk about people from different communities. So, and that's actually what we have to, what is amazing about the work, because the fact that we can do that in a court of law shows that we make a record that this person is not who you think he is.
Yes, but say I am in the jury or I am sitting there. Sound like the job that you do is not to prove, is more like after the guilty. So this is after they do whatever they do, and now would you like bring this evidence towards the judge to try to weaken the sentence or see if the judge have any form of leniency?
So no, it's not always say after, if we think they are guilty of what they are
Yes.
accused of. Sometimes they are not.
Yeah.
But again, they already find themselves in that position because of
Cultural views of how they already make him out to be.
right, our profiling, our racial profiling,
Yes.
all these type of things. So it's already he looks like the person who
Okay.
would have done this.
So it's like a character witness. You kind of like a try break it down.
Yeah, so we have to show that, if they say this is how he was because this is how he was at school or this is how he was at work, then we would do the work to say, well, we have X amount of people who know him from his childhood or know his family who said this is not their history, this is not true. So it's maybe a pattern that happened for a short time, but it's not necessarily the whole pattern. It's
Okay.
and that's what it's really about, is showing the whole history. And yes, there will be other cases where a person is found guilty, and we will then, we will work to show that there might be a lot of cause and effect, So
Yes.
what that person might have been through, his own journey, is again part of it. So again, it's not to look like Rhyme did this thing, it's terrible, and to look at that in a kind of, just a blinkered way, is to also look, so what brought him to that place? You understand?
So,
What-
why?
Yeah, why, and some people say, why? I don't really want to know why. Him do, him deserve what him get.
That's going to be most people. Most people that is not connected to the case at all, from the outside looking in, is going to be like, if him guilty, him guilty.
Right. and that can be some of the hardest part of the work to overcome, because you might go to see somebody, friend or them relative or whatever, and you're gonna say, I come working on this, I'm here to speak to you about your nephew or your cousin or whatever. And they might hear some lock up for something. They might hear that it's for murder or something. So sometimes the way human nature is, they will base helping that person on whether they think he did it. So that will often be the first question. So him do what them say him do?
Yeah. Like, yeah, if him do it, is him do it, or him don't do it.
Right. So if him not if him not do it or you're not sure, we might be more likely to help you. But if him if him do him with them same do, well,
Yeah, but to me that kind of confusing, because, say for instance, you're so basically, so you work with the lawyers, and then how you manage to not let the actions of the person affect how you view them while working with them. So for instance, if them say enough a lie to your lawyer, and suppose I always tell them the truth because it might save you. So you are work with somebody now, and what if they actually do commit whatever they said they're doing, and like it is wrong, or something he or she has done something that is morally incorrect to you, that you find very distasteful. Doesn't that affect you to try to find a reason or cultural background or differences to see, okay, then this guy doesn't deserve the death penalty, or slow him down? Isn't it hard?
Yeah. All right, that's why I say the Earz Podcast, them ask the tough questions. I think, yes, it sometimes it can be difficult, or the facts of a
Case.
Case.
Overwhelming.
yeah, because like you say, you might have certain views about a certain situation or something that you might not tolerate yourself.
Yes.
And you have to kind of work through that, or you have to maybe make a decision and say, all right, I'm not going to work on this case because
I'm leaving. Have you ever have to step away from one? You're like, I cannot do this.
I haven't, but I think when I was younger and more fresh in the work, I think you find yourself in a position where obviously you want to do the work, you want to prove yourself, so you'd be more likely to take on something that morally in your mind you think, I don't know. Whereas no, if there was something that I think is gonna affect my work, so it's not, it's gonna affect the level of work that I can deliver, then I
Yeah.
would think about whether this is the case for me. But saying that, I, I, I don't think I've ever done that because I believe that there's a baseline of a person having the right to be represented well, and doing this type of work, is part of that. So we have to remember, and even our own people who find themselves in the justice system in the U.S., our one person is going up against the government.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
9 times out of 10 is a public defendant.
it's a public defender, but I also do want to speak about that because I'm glad that you raised that point.
Yeah. I want to know if that is a myth or not.
It's a myth.
About
It's
public defendants not being as competent as other lawyers.
correct. So I think a lot of people who find themselves in a situation where they've been arrested,
Yes.
and the family as well. All right, the person get arrested. They don't have the money to pay for, whatever it might be for a lawyer.
Yeah.
They will get a public defender, right? They will sometimes culturally, they will automatically think, why, if I'm get a free lawyer, I'm going to be useless. And it's the same thing that the family going to think as well. They're going to think, why him get this lawyer that the court give him and all this kind of stuff. So most of the work that I do is with a lot of public defender offices
Okay.
in Florida here, in other states. And back in the day, 60s, 70s, all that kind of stuff, I think it was true to some extent that if you get a court-appointed lawyer, he's going to be a young guy, not very experienced.
Yeah.
He's going to have, like some of the cartoons would show him, going to have pages.
Yeah, but if you put if there's a test right now and there's like a graph which shows these are the people that are represented by public defendants and these are the people that are represented by paid lawyers, you think the facts won't show that one side is skewed towards as to where the public defendants aren't as the win ratio, it is not?
No, I think that it might show that in a regular criminal case, that
Yeah.
is not a death penalty case. But I think in terms of what they call capital murder,
Yeah.
I think the public defenders. So I would just say, from the time that I have, because I worked for an organization for some time, but in the time that I've worked independently with my own organization, we have worked with many public defender offices around the country, in the U.S., and I have not worked on one case where we didn't get the best outcome for the defendant.
Well, the best outcome can be pleading guilty and taking a reduced sentence, right?
That's one outcome.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, to try to get over how difficult these cases are to fight from a legal perspective.
Yes.
In a capital case or a death penalty case, there are only, unless there is a plea which is offered, there are only two,
Outcomes,
right? And it's either,
life or death penalty.
right, life without parole or the death penalty, right? So when you say to somebody that you got life for the client, and that's a victory in some senses,
Yeah.
it's a tough victory because it's tough on a human level to say, why, never, we
Yeah,
did.
but understandable because because you say you work on mostly cases where you're trying to help them to not get the death penalty. So if the death penalty was on the table in the first place, definitely something you already figured that you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison.
Yeah, so, but I think the thing is that the again, and I'm not gonna say that I'm an expert on this, and probably there's more science to it than anything else. But
Yes.
I think when you are able to tell individual's life story, the jury are much more inclined to
Be more compassionate or have more.
just to believe that as a human being, even if this was a huge mistake where other people suffered, this person deserves his life. And that's a big thing, you understand? And so I think sometimes you have to break down some of these myths about the people who do this work. People that I work with at FIU as part of a project that I'm involved in, they do amazing work. And some of the public defender offices are creative. They're doing amazing work. But I think that's one of the myths. I think another myth is this idea that often we have within our community when you're facing charges, and sometimes the most serious penalty, a going bus case.
Yeah. Yeah, what's the case?
And trying to explain that because a person might be in a community with other people who are in custody, but the facts might be different, but they have this idea that, yeah, man, don't worry about it, man. Me all right, man. I'm
Yeah,
going,
yeah, man, I bust the
yeah,
case.
yeah, man. Me a bus case. And you have to sometimes have a lot of conversations to say, this is how serious the case is.
Okay.
This is, so it's not that we're not gonna do our best for you.
It's just the most probable outcome is probably not what you are gonna like.
Yeah, and the thing is, also sometimes, and much more often nowadays, the work that you can do to show a person's life can be things that you can use for these type of discussions, like around a plea and things like that. So it can get you out of actually going to trial. And when you work with people, have relationships with the government and stuff like that, you can say, look, we have done all this work to show the person's life history. Read this report, read who they are. Let's have a discussion about a plea and see if we can work something out. Because it's also a very dangerous road to go to trial. If you
don't have the resources to go against the government.
yeah, but also from the level of, if you have, wherever it might be, Miami, New York, not New York, they don't have death penalty, but
Texas,
yeah, Texas.
Louisiana.
The likelihood is if you are accused of this crime, which is usually going to involve homicide or murder, people have seen it in the news.
Yeah,
Right.
it's going to be publicized.
Yeah, it has a public thing. So even if you're going to say that you're going to have 12 people, on a jury who should be impartial, before they get selected, there might be a good chance they've already seen this news. They've already seen it in the news. And so that can be the hardest thing, because maybe some of those people have already made their mind up before they get into the courtroom.
Yeah, and that should be rough. Has there ever been any situation where you're close to like working with somebody or helping somebody, and then you never get the best outcome for the person? How you deal with that feeling?
There hasn't been in the time that I have been working for my own organization.
Good.
But I worked on a case. I've worked on 2 cases where the person was executed.
Oh, somebody was given the death penalty.
They were given a death penalty, but I worked on the case over a period of time close to the execution date.
Okay.
And then whilst still being active on that case, the person was executed. So I have felt the reality of that, what that means and it was it's a big thing. If you do this work and that person that you're fighting for, one day them say everything is finished, his appeals are over,
Oh, so you can appeal. How many appeals you have to execution?
Um, I'm going to consult my colleague here at
Yeah.
FIU. But the appeal, it depends in different places. The
Okay.
appeal process can be a long one. So again, it's not a case of you're you're gonna get sentenced to death today and you're gonna get executed next week.
Yeah,
Because
it takes time. I think I heard in some states it's quicker than the others.
yeah, so sometimes the reality is the appeal process can take many years, but also some cases might not have been so high profile in the media. So sometimes, even if those cases are like in the last stage of appeal, it's kind of like everybody forget about that case. So you leave it alone. But you have certain cases where there might be someone from the government or the people um, who might have been victims in some way who want that person, they want things to be speeded up. And so things can move faster on another case.
Or like the prosecution, they can be like, this guy needs to hurry up.
Yeah, because I think a part of, we also have to be honest to say that a part of what happens in the justice system also happens for political reasons, right? In different states or in different countries, the people who are in charge or the people who are in positions, certain positions, they want to be able to show, say, yo, we're tough on crime.
Yeah.
The worst types of things that happen are going to be dealt with in the worst way. Some people set up their election campaign on these kind of promises. You're going to be safe. This is a safe community because we are here. So that can all have an impact on that human being, who is really fighting for his life, if we look
Yeah.
at it like that.
Speaking of, when you say politics and things being political, so there has been a bill that we have been seeing circulating. I don't know if you have seen it, but for the viewers, there's a bill circulating around in Jamaica now where the Prime Minister has set out. I don't know if you know what it is, but it's like a list of like all the possibilities, the charges you're going to get, and the amount of years you're going to get. So now, if you're caught with a firearm, you're looking at, I think it's like 20 years. Like minimum 15, maximum 20 if you get caught with a firearm. And so the crime bills, they're like it's very strong. And I think it's actually ridiculous to sentence somebody to 15 years for possessing a firearm. And I think like if you use it, it's like 20. And so that now is an example where you think this is now more political. Now he's trying some sort of political gain for something like this. And how possible you think it is that it will actually work? Like, will they really sentence people to 20 years for being caught with a firearm?
I mean, who knows, to be honest, but you can see that sometimes what happens in smaller countries, and again, I've worked in many countries around the world, is sometimes modeled off of other countries, right? We see,
Yes.
oh, they are this harsh with something in this country. And, studies show that some of the harshest sort of punishment is here in the US, right? Despite everything. So, and I think once the penalties for crimes, which I'm not saying there shouldn't be penalties for crime, become harder and harder and harsher and more, longer in time and stuff like that, then, just like a kid, right? Punishment's supposed to have
Impact.
the effect of rehabilitation. The point of it, you being scolded or as a child, is to say you're not supposed to do this.
And then you come back in a society. You get beaten for something, you rebound, you're not supposed to do it.
Right. So the point is you learn from that, right? But if we have these big sentences, we're kind of saying that you're not going to get that second chance, right?
Yeah, you don't get a second chance.
Yeah, so it means that, and plus I don't think, I think we have to strike a balance. I think if we look at certain countries around the world, some of the European countries that have low crime rates and stuff like that, some of them have lower penalties for crimes. So it kind of shows that Because what they have to show is right. If you have a harsh sentence for owning a gun or
Yes.
something, is that gonna make people stop using gun? Is that gonna, is that right? For some, I'm sure, but
For some, I don't think it stopped. It's just like, to me, it's just like it's like simple econ. So, for instance, if I have a gun and the penalties feel rough, I am still going to keep it to protect it's still worth my life. It's still
Right,
like I
right,
want to be
right.
alive.
right, exactly. And so that's very different. That's in some ways,
Judged by 12, carried by 6. People believe that.
right. But what also that's what part of the argument is here in the U.S. is that if you have the death penalty, it serves as a deterrent against committing certain crimes. The fact is that some of the people, who do some of the worst crimes have been through some of the worst things in their life, abuse and things like that. So what by whatever reasoning that they decide to do what they do, they are not necessarily, in a mental health state where they are thinking, I'm not going to do that because of the punishment.
Yeah.
And right, and it's the same like you say with people in a certain life, So what it means is that people just say, sure, I will write that sentence there. But it doesn't mean that they necessarily come out and think, oh, I'm not going to do that again. I won't have, like you said, because maybe that gun or that way of life,
Yeah.
they can't actually live without that way of life.
Yeah, but the way how I look at it, so everybody is influenced by the environment, regardless of how you like it or not. Everything that I do, my mannerisms, like me clean my room a certain way because of my parents. Yes, I was disciplined when I was younger, and I grew up in communities where a lot of violence take place. Now, somebody might be exposed to more than me, or I might be more exposed to it than the normal person. I personally don't necessarily, after somebody has committed an act, say for instance like murder or abuse, I don't. So it's like I was exposed to the same thing, and I have a different look at it. I'm not necessarily going to feel sympathy for somebody that murdered somebody. That's why I would not be a good liar. 'Cause I'm going to be like, and I would say that's probably because of how I was growing up. Because I have an instance where, so when I was in high school, I got into a fight with a guy, and I used a board and I hit him in his head.
Oh, what?
Board. We won 2 before. I slap him across the mid side with it. And him faint and him drop on the ground and him rush him go to the hospital. And the school car, I go to the police station. And when the school car, I go to the police station, I sit down and my grandmother come in and my grandmother talk to the policeman and my grandmother was lit. My grandmother throw me in the cold. My grandmother was like, listen to me. Him do it? What are we talking about here? We need to leave. Do what you have to do, sir. Him make him bed him for later in the night.
What it means is our people, they do see things in quite black and white ways. Not to say that's the wrong way, right? But I think another thing to understand is, especially for people in other countries, is to understand how difficult it is when you find yourself in the justice system here, especially as somebody who is not white. And I know people will say, like you say, well, him do, make him gone.
Yeah. If he's given a fair trial, but how often will he be given a fair trial?
And that's the problem. And that's what's so difficult to do. That's why some lawyers within our community don't necessarily want to go to trial, because they want to see if they could get a plea deal for their client before, because they feel like there's a strong chance of how everything is, how the jury are going to be, that at trial they could lose, and that person will be sentenced to death. So it's understanding, and this is what I try, and this is why I'm happy to be on the podcast, because I try to speak to people, especially, and even in Jamaica as well, to try to get them to understand that you have a moral view on what your loved one has done or somebody that you know has done.
Yes.
But at the same time, that person, he deserves to be represented. He deserves to have the representation because if he doesn't, you know, that's it, right? Like I said, he's going up against the government. The government will has all the resources they want. They want to fly here, fly there, do this investigation, forensics, all these things. So us on a human level have to show that, you know, and a lot of times we do, you know, we're able to show, you know, even people who think why, because it comes back to love, right? It's just like that's, you know, and especially I think with what we have here is you know, young men and their mothers. Sometimes you do find that, and eventually you work with the family enough to get mom to realize what she knew anyway. That's just my son, you know.
Yeah.
I know I did that, or that's what they're saying, but I love him,
Yeah.
you know, and that's one of the hardest things to break. And a lot of times we are able to show that in the courtroom that this person is a person who's loved, and that's why he might have made a mistake, but maybe he deserves a chance.
Him can pay a price, but not necessarily the ultimate price.
Right, right, right. And it's so hard for a person, you know, a person's family to understand, like, what that actually means, right? You know, what that actually means to, because you have to remember that even however long it might take to you to reach to a date for your execution after all the appeals and everything, that don't mean say you're not a person who is thinking about that
Yeah,
every day.
like to me, you tell I am literally sitting and waiting on the day. That to me worse than the actual death penalty. Like,
Yeah, and they have a lot of studies right now where they're looking at the actual trauma that causes a person, because, you know, and imagine now they do have some cases where a person's date comes up and they get taken to the room to prepare, you know, a lot of individuals who are on death row, they get the chance to have a last meal, so they get to choose the thing they like to eat. And
that is madness.
but sometimes they will find themselves, and whatever work the lawyers are doing behind the scenes and everything, that person will get a stay of execution.
Or is that the only thing where them like offer them just last meal?
It's just a last meal. Sometimes they will, again, don't quote me on this, they will be able to have a person or a person.
Them get to have like sex one more time before.
No,
damn. But just laughing, I had to get it out there.
No,
you know?
that's finished. They don't. Sometimes they might have a family member who they can see, but what I was trying to say was that sometimes when they have that last meal, the lawyers might do something where they get a stay of execution, so they pull that person back. So imagine being that person who was prepared in their mind. Okay,
Say, this is it.
This is it, and then boom. Yes, of course you're happy. You know, they pull you.
I really don't think they're happy.
But it's the constant, like, we're going back and forth. We're thinking about, you know, trying to, if something can work, if something can change, you know. I mean, death row is tough.
So you are definitely not for capital punishment at all.
No.
Okay, I agree. I agree. So no, I think that is something they're really trying to bring back in Jamaica right now with the levels of crime that is taking place. And there's always people trying to find reasons for crimes, like why a lot of crimes commit here, or why a lot of crimes commit in Jamaica. And here I think it's two different reasons. But at the end of the day, it's always poverty. Mm-hmm. But for some people, to get the death penalty for something, because here you get death penalties for like first degree murder, or like if you like a police officer or a civil servant. That's what they call him, like a civil servant. Have you ever been in a situation with somebody where you're like they wrongfully receive the death penalty?
Yeah. I mean, I've worked on cases where people have been sentenced to death, where they had what we call a strong innocence claim. We didn't think that it was them. Um, I've been, and we've fought, but actually, on a few of those cases, it's actually the system that prevented us because, like I was saying, you can have this long appeals process, and sometimes, in kind of simple terms, every time there's an appeal, they're asking you to bring, you know, if you have evidence, it has to be new, right?
Okay.
Wherever you bring last time, never
You
work
can't
out,
use it again.
right? But it might be a fact that wherever you bring last time, you develop it more. That person say more about something that it wasn't him, it was somebody else. But them kind of set the bar so high that
It have to be extremely convincing.
right. And when you check it now, like I said, the appeals process could last a long time. So you could be now working on something where happened 20 years ago. You're trying to find somebody who knows something. Somebody tell you say this brother know.
And then you live your life
Yeah.
and you work other cases as well. Yes,
Yeah.
the person kind of get a raw deal.
Yeah, so it's just like that person, so when a person, so you're really struggling to find some of those things. Not that it's impossible, but sometimes the system, even when you have it, doesn't, the way it's set up technically, it doesn't allow you to present it, right? So, because it don't, like, even if you had it on YouTube or somebody say, no, I'm not this person, them say, there's a procedure. It has to be presented like this. It has to be verified, all these kind of things. So, you could have people shouting. You could have the person who did the crime turning up to the courthouse and say, I mean, do it. But they're going to say, this person was convicted, right? So,
So that is all that is all that really matter.
yeah, so it means that, but again, then if you find yourself on death row and you are innocent, then, that's also very painful because you're looking for ways also, as those appeals continue, the resources that are available to you run out.
And this costs money, right?
Yeah, so it's not one further down in our appeals process is not a given that you're going to have all the investigation paid for. Because again, the court might say, well, you had Chris do all this investigation before, right? So now we're not gonna authorize more time to do that. So if you're gonna do that, you're gonna have to find your money yourself. So it just means, the best place to have an impact
Is the first.
is before you got to trial, right? And then after that, it's a struggle because the resources run out, time runs out. You want to speak to this person, or you might fly to another country to go see him. The person dead. So you say, "Wow, that was like our key witness."
Okay.
And now everything is gonna be like, oh, somebody said that Dale said this, but Dale is dead. So, so it just becomes much more complicated to have an impact.
So have you ever like did some extensive research on somebody and like find out like why they are the way they are and what is like the most interesting like background of somebody, that end up doing something that are received capital punishment?
I think we find through our work that the majority of people who find themselves facing death row or the death penalty have been through some trauma and abuse in their life. Sometimes that's been documented because maybe they've seen somebody at school or a psychologist or something, but a lot of times it hasn't been. So part of our work is to kind of go back in time and show, through their school scores or by speaking to family members who could speak on their behavior, what they have been through, and then to try to work out getting an expert involved who can speak about that and stuff like that. So, I don't have any particular cases, but I think I have always been taken back by what people tell me.
Some of the things people go through.
Yeah, I mean, so that's why I said to it again. Maybe it's not to excuse that person, but it's to understand the person because, and even here in the U.S., I've worked on cases where of individuals living in extreme poverty, like that. You sit and you hear a person's story, speak about his childhood, speak about family members, abuse, nothing to eat, all these kind of things. And if you have to be a call somebody if something like that doesn't touch you in some way to say, okay, and then feeling that the only way I could get money was by doing this or doing that. So I think like what you're saying about things in Jamaica, there are things that are happening at the other end of things when somebody might have done something, but governments and society at large have to think about what do they do to change the path of people, right? To provide opportunity, to provide opportunities for people to excel in other ways, to provide education, things like that, right? Because again, we will see in Jamaica they will now have banned, music
Certain
and
type
all.
of music, yeah.
Right, because they say of the
There's a correlation between it and different what is happening right now.
right, and then of course all the influence on young people and this kind of thing. But what are the other options that are available for young people, or what are the other ways? Because again, when people see musicians or sports stars or things like that, that's what they aspire to, and it's not a bad thing. But it's also to show that there are other pathways to excellence that maybe not be the ones that we have looked to for a long time, but that they are not pathways that are reserved for our, lighter skin counterparts.
Yeah.
That we can find ways to do things. Because when I got into this work and got to the level where I am, I used to always say, why? Little old me, do this work, like them. This case, them say me an expert. This case, and my sister always used to say to me, "Yo, just stop with that little old me stuff." You understand? Because realize that you're not in your position because of charity or whatever, and that we have so many of our own. And again, I think it's to let people know. Part of the podcast today was to say, "Yo, this is also a part." A
Yeah,
pathway
like
for
you can actually learn them thing here.
yes. I mean, the project that we have at FIU. One of the first students that was working with me on the project was a young Jamaican guy studying law here at FIU, who has been part of this committee and this thing, who has excelled in his academic life. So. And I'm sure will go on to be a incredible liar. But it's amazing to see. It's refreshing because it shows that. But we need to believe that more, that we can rise to the top in anything.
You know what I think the problem is? I think the problem is a lot of these traditional professions, because of how I grew up and the people that I grew up with. A lot of these traditional professions, they take time to make money, and it still need a level of resources to even become a lawyer. So I went to the University of the West Indies. Now, to get into law school at the University of the West Indies is a hard task, but it's not really that hard, honestly. But to get in, and then now you have to get a certain amount of grade to get the government subsidy to let it be cheaper. And then now you have to go through, and I have a lot of friends who went law school, did the bar at Norman Manley now, and they're still struggling. And I'm 26 years old, so I'm recently removed from college. But all my friends know that are like lawyers, they're not really making like a great living right now. And then growing up in the inner city, you're looking at the people with the success, with the car, the house, and you are seeing that it's a faster way to get to it than the traditional work area. And I just think probably that is what is deterring a lot of people in Jamaica right now, because in the environment that we grew up in, the ones that have the money or have the things that we want or aspire to have are going to be the ones that are doing things that are wrong. But I think as a youth, explaining to somebody is not necessarily we don't want to do it because it's right or because it's the thing right now. It's just because that is what get you the money the fastest. Because I don't, liars, honestly, if I am a liar, if say I am in court right now and they're like, you need to choose your liar. If a lawyer come in and tell me say him is anything younger than 50, I don't want him represent me. I don't believe him. You're 30. I don't want a 30-year-old lawyer to be representing my life. Because it's just like you see a person with gray hair, you're going to feel like a man with gray hair has wisdom. Somebody with younger, I think them immature. No, that is the perception of people. So I don't really want to wait long to have money. No young person don't want to wait long. But all you get when you start realize the success on social media, it can be a fallacy like that. Another real world, like things take time for build.
Yeah,
and we young, so we just kind of, we just do what we have to do right then and there. We don't necessarily look upon the repercussions.
No, I think it's true because I think again, don't get me wrong. I think some of the traditional professions like law, medicine, it does take time. It takes time, and like you say, it takes money, right? That sometimes
a lot of money.
And then to do placements.
Exactly. You have to go to Norman Manley. You're the 3 year at Norman Manley, and then after Norman Manley, no, you're the 3 year at UA doing the regular law. Then you have to go to Norman Manley, and you have to do law in Cape, and then you're going to get placement, and they're not making $200,000 a month after Norman Manley. Until it takes time.
Yeah, so it takes time. But I think you would probably say as well that even where people might see you at, that also took time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So even though whatever people see the buzz on social media or the stuff like that, they obviously don't see.
That is the issue. Them the system come here with wall a bag and I'm running out of rain.
Right, exactly. So they also think that why just having an Instagram following or something, that should be easy. But, even friends who I have in business and stuff, because, I had to set up my own company, once I left my job and everything. So I had to work out how everything worked legally and everything like that. And I spoke to a lot of peers who are entrepreneurs and stuff like that who said, look, it's the same thing, right? It's gonna be 3 to 5 years before you actually start to see it on the horizon, like, yo, this thing is working. And within that 3 to 5 years, whatever your business idea might fail, and stuff like that. So, and don't get me wrong, I think there are, I have met people of this stature in this field who, yes, we meet up, they're driving a Mercedes, they're wearing a Rolex, all this kind of stuff. But they would tell me about their days when they didn't have any money, when they was, just trying to build up their career. So I think it's interesting because it's still, law is still a very old school field, right? It goes on who knows you.
I wanted to be a liar.
See there? And now look here in the courtroom at FIU.
It's just perspective. But I wanted to be a liar, but it was like career day, the easiest thing to do is to find a suit. So you can just be a liar. And then when I got to UA, when I was applying, I was like, do I really want to do this? Because I just feel because of how I grew up with grandparents, I am like a straightforward person. So it's like, if you do it, you do it. And so I am more like like, what are we doing now that you have done it? Me not like story, me not like excuse, me not like nobody tell me the reason why I'm do this is because of this. And is a problem because you're supposed to have some form of reasoning. And I blame my grandmother for that. She instilled certain thing in me, and then the time and the money and the resources. And then the issue is the reason why one of my reasons why I think crime is so like rampant in Jamaica is because the people of success that we are seeing are older. So the traditional successful people, they are older. So like, you get Jamaica, the lawyers are like the Nita, Tavares, and I have a friend named Bruce. Nobody hiring Bruce right now. Bruce is 26.
But it's like, but it's like what you said, and I think sometimes to an extent, that happens here in the U.S. as well. That often a person, being approached by a black lawyer, young or old sometimes, there is this idea that, a white lawyer
might be better than the black one.
Yeah, so even ourselves as a community, we don't put trust in ourselves until we say, boy, that person boss
you have to have a real result.
Yeah, or win a big case or and then all right, that person want to represent me. So we don't trust enough to allow that pathway to say, okay, cool, let's support some of these young, and to be honest, I think people don't see, like I said, I'm not going to say that the early years are not difficult, but when you get to a certain place in the law field where you're seen as an expert, you come on a certain rate of pay, and things like this that afford you a certain lifestyle, but it doesn't necessarily, like you said, come as
but the thing is,
when I say come as
you
quick, like
Jesus Christ. So like, you love what you do, and I think there are certain professions which love, like, you can hate being an accountant. Honestly, it's money. You have to love being a lawyer. You have to love being a doctor. Now, the environments that I grew up in, nobody wants to be a doctor. We don't see that. That's not, we don't, no girl is like, I want the doctor guy. No. He's a lawyer, I'm so attracted to him. No, it's sports or something in the field. And then it is so weird because women are attracted to certain kind of aggression. When growing up, we had to be aggressive.
yeah, it's true.
And you end up to certain situation, and there's literally men right now that went into a life of crime because it was seen cool.
Right.
It is literally like a cool thing.
Right. And I mean, you see it in some of what we see in social media right now. You see some of the guys who, they've made it big in crypto or whatever business and stuff like that. And they're driving Lamborghinis and all this kind of stuff. But they don't have that thing that the rappers have. The man from the road. So even if they can buy it, they can't buy that.
Even if they buy it and driving it, them just don't look like a black man in it.
Right.
And that is the issue.
Yeah, it's true. I think, and I think, don't get me wrong, I think, in the legal field, especially in the kind of work I do and we do, there's a lot of, you have to feel it. You
have to love what you do.
You have to love it. And you have to believe in people, and humanity. But I think also at the same time, me as a person, from Jamaica, where I grew up, everything, to look at what I have done, in my time, I have traveled to so many countries. I have done things that I would never have imagined, that I like, that's why I always used to say, wow, like, I'm from this place, or my people are from this place, and on a personal level, if you take the hype away, or what people going to think of you, or the kind of enrichment that you get from some of the countries that I've been that I only read about or I didn't even know about,
Yes.
and stuff like that, and the people that you meet and what it brings to your life, you start to think, say, this isn't just a thing that's reserved for a certain type of people, and I think that's part of. I think what it is it doesn't always necessarily, the amount of people who choose that pathway, but is that we create one, that
Yes.
exists as a choice. So it's not just like you say, oh, I need to be good at sports. I understand. We know that the door is open to different things that you want to do. I think we are seeing it in some way in the business.
Especially like social media business. Yeah, it's
Yeah, or starting your own business and realizing that you can do things like that. But I think in some of the traditional fields, it also comes down to representation where like, if we don't get people on that pathway, then we don't see anything to relate to.
exactly. If they don't see it,
Yeah.
and yeah, 'cause honestly, not a lot of people like you. Like I went to school in Jamaica. I did all my schooling in Jamaica. I cannot tell you 5 times I've like met a liar. Like a lot of people don't know liars until
Some
they get
have.
in trouble. And that is a lot. A lot of Jamaicans don't know liars until they get in trouble, especially here. Like America is so big, and like the probability of you like getting in trouble is 300 odd million people. So chances are you probably won't never ever get to use a liar.
Right.
So that one time when you meet them, if that's your perception of that person going to be just judged off the one interaction with him, so you don't know the person's background, or so it's better to meet somebody where we share the same background or better energy.
Yeah, and my experience of working with some of the clients that we've worked with, or some of the projects that I've worked with, that again, if you are passionate about what happens to our communities, our human rights, and things like that, I witness it firsthand in how people, take to me, meeting them in prison or meeting their family members. It's just like an automatic switch of like, this person know, him know where we live, him know where we go through.
Exactly.
Like, and it's something that sometimes would take a liar who is not from the same place months or years to build up that kind of rapport, and that's part of the impact that we can have on our own communities. But to think as well the impact that we can have on our communities who live in the diaspora, to help them be represented better, to help them, go through what they're going through, or to be understood, because that's part of it as well, and I think it's very interesting just to think, I used to tell, like I said, people don't think I need a liar till
something happened.
something happen. Even when something happen, people think, boy, I never meet you eat, so me don't need a liar. What me need a liar for? Because if me there at police station and them get it wrong and it's not me, I don't need for call no liar because I'm innocent, right? So when you there for 2 days and you sign this and sign that, you say, and I would say to some of the friends that I have or young people around me to say, yo, why you never just say, I don't want to speak until
Until they get a liar.
but because I never do nothing. Okay, but you still need somebody to speak for you. So it's even changing that, in how we think about the system, and to get it out of this Hollywood mindset, because the harsh reality of being arrested here or anywhere else or facing charges is, it can hit hard. And I think we just need to work out how. And I think a lot of things come from like some of the things you're talking about. How can we create, opportunities for people just to see what it's like to be a liar,
Yes.
or to see this, or to have a, I've met people who want to do a placement or something for a summer or something, but they would say, well, I can't do that placement because the placement, they don't, like, I won't have any money. You
Too
know,
far
yeah,
or
it's too far.
something.
I have to live here. So you will see people with their white counterparts who can pay for them to do a placement for a year, will pay their rent to be in another city or another country. And so we lose out because economically we don't have a way to do that. Or if we're going to do that placement, then I'm going to have to work a job at the same time. So maybe I'm not.
Lose focus, sir.
Yeah, so it's working out how we provide some of that so that people can see, is this what I want to do? Is this something that I care about enough to put in that time, to put in those years of study just to, and like I said, I've met a handful of Jamaicans who I've worked with who have done that. But I've also met some who, because of money,
Them stop.
yeah, they couldn't go as far as they wanted to go because they said, yo, my rent for pay. I have, but I like work for free, but
Can't do that.
yeah.
As it relates to, you mentioned human rights. Like, what is the work you put in that field specifically?
So I think obviously the work that we do in criminal justice forms part of human right, as a human right for a person to be
Right to life.
yeah, the right to life, the right to be represented, but and which everyone deserves that right. But in some of the cases and projects that I've worked on, I've had also a broader human rights perspective. Like I was saying to you, I worked on the case of over 50 individuals who were held in Guantanamo Bay after 9/11. We proved that on the work that I did, that those persons were innocent, right?
Okay.
But what happened was, obviously, you had this huge global event. You had a city, New York, that was.
So everybody get thrown up and blame one time. The whole 50.
Well, in fact, Guantanamo had close to 900 people that were there. Some of those were teenagers. Some of those were children. And most of those people, through the work that we did, were picked up, tortured.
Can you say the name of the organization, or you cannot?
Of my organization?
Yeah.
Yes, my organization is called 255 Research and Investigation. And I used to work for an organization called Reprieve, which was based in London as well.
Okay.
So 255 is my my baby, so to speak.
Yeah.
And people always ask me, 255 is a special code that to do with investigation. But
That sounds like a password.
it's actually 255 Spanish Town Road is where my grandmother house is. So I give it that as a nod to my grandmother.
That bad.
Because she was somebody who always find a way to help somebody. She carried food to the church. She kind of showed me, say, you don't need a big crew of people to change something or change somebody's life. Say you can give somebody a bread or a mackerel or something, and
change. It can change.
Yeah, and my grandmother, the way the road them rough, she was at one point she'd have one of her leg amputated, and she was still moving around in a wheelchair. We go church, we give people food, we send food from foreign. So, but like I was saying, in the work that we did on those cases, we realized that I realized that the world had changed how it saw people, and it meant that if I know that you are something such as the event that happened at 9/11, and how terrible that we saw it as in real life, on the images and the and that means that if somebody's gonna tell me that Dale had something to do with it, it means that it's so terrible that I'm gonna accept Dale being treated a certain way.
Quick.
Because so even somebody tell me, say, them a whole Dale underground in a place and I beat him and whip him or wherever them are.
Yeah, I look on it like acceptable.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, well, he did this thing, so, and I realized that most of these guys went through things that me as a person working on those cases, listening to what some guys had been through in different countries, people hear me say the way this person was treated was based on medieval torture techniques from
Wow.
the Middle Ages. I had to take a stop one day and say, people really treat people like this? Like,
You do the right thing, somebody will definitely justify why them do it a certain way.
yeah, and I get to understand that most of those individuals who, in the end, we proved that they were innocent, they went through some things and they had some parts of their life taken away from them that they will never get back. And they lived through some things that, you know, nobody should live through. And we did that to other people because we said, you did this, you did that, even without it being proved. You understand?
Yeah.
So, but I also tell people, say, like, the phrase, somebody fit in your description, could be you. And any moment you could be somewhere and get picked up, and before you know it, you find yourself in a situation. So if you don't know somebody, say, you need to call this person's a liar, or my liar, call him, you know.
Yeah.
So we have to change that as well.
That is true. I really believe 90% or 95% of Jamaican people right now is when the trouble actually come, them know a liar. Like, I cannot tell you which liar I would have called right now because I don't know one. You know why? Because in your mind, we're living a regular civilian life, so there's like no real reason why I should really. Like, why do I need to know alive? All I'm doing is working every day and then going home. That is how the common man is looking at it. But it's always situations. So it's just to know. I think a lot of us just don't necessarily know.
Yeah, I think of it just a lot of it comes down to education, where we're not, like you said, we've used to it because, like I said, with my work, it's generational, right? We know, say, our parents thought a certain way, so it brings it down to us. Like, our parents would tell us the same thing, right? If I know you do it, you know nothing to worry about. You understand? So
Yeah.
that all those things have an impact on how we think, but some of the situations are going to be worse than you getting into trouble with your mother or your grandmother. You understand?
Way worse.
And so it's also telling people, like I say, because there is, such a thing, as a bad liar, right? There is, so it's also us working out, boy, I know this person, like I know a liar in most countries in the world, right? If I'm traveling somewhere, I'm letting them know before because of all the travel that I've done, everything that's on my passport. So before I travel, come to Miami or wherever, I'll check in and say, yo, this is my flight. In case me have any trouble, just I'll letting you know. And sometimes people think, you don't have to worry about that. I just, there you're going. But I said, like, I would rather have taken that precaution and know, and then just, yeah, man, me good. Them check in, everything all right, yeah, man, me good. But they were already on kind of standby. And that's why I tell people, you find yourself, it's as simple as you find yourself in a police station and you don't have just the name of a liar. So then when your family get back to say,
That is it, right now. Right now, if me find myself in I don't know a liar name to tell them.
me give you one after. but it's a point of actually, like you said, the process of doing it every time. Are realizing, that, like, say, in London, I know a bunch of different liars, and I would tell people, like, this is somebody who I know. So, but like you said, they will come to me after the fact. So this happened, we get arrested for this last night. It could be a car thing, could be anything. And then I find myself have to say, all right, next time,
Call.
yeah, put this name,
person.
put this number in your phone, blah, blah, blah. They will know you're entitled to the help, all this kind of stuff. But them already do the first thing, you understand? So it's just changing how we think about things, because we are quick to say, why, Babylon do this, Babylon do that,
Yeah.
rare, all this kind of stuff. Them have it out for me and blah blah blah. But then we have to change how we protect ourselves because we end up in situations because we don't know the law or we don't know the things that they can do and can't do. So we find ourselves in positions in the street where our behavior will reach a certain level where we blow up and then we will do the thing that they was expecting us to do.
Yeah.
Right?
That is the problem.
Yeah, because we have to realize that the knowledge gives us, like it says, a cliche, but it gives us power, right?
Yeah.
When I know what a police officer can do and can't do, I'm in a better position to speak to him to say, yo, I know what my rights are. I know
Yeah, but
what-
sometimes it's how you relate the message to him. Like saying, I know my rights is probably one of the worst things I can say. Maybe if they'd be like, Mr. Officer, I don't think that what you're doing right now is legal. I am being fair. But if you're like, yo, me know my rights, you're going to get your ass beat. But that's how it is in Jamaica. But
Yeah. I think it's the same. But it's also just, even if you know that happens to you, it's being able to say, all right, that shouldn't happen. So what's the action I'm going to take? You know, I mean, again, most people would say, why, if you're in a police station and in a kind of Hollywood fashion and you say, no comment, that's going to show us there. I'm guilty or something, right? And they said, no, you don't have to speak. You don't have to say anything. You just say, I'm not answering any question till my lawyer reach here. This is my lawyer's name. Give him a call, and I wait till he comes to speak. But even
and if the liar not come, what if the liar not available today?
you still,
Stay
again,
at jail till the liar come.
to be honest, I don't want to say you should, but I think you should not, because that's exactly what happened, right?
Yeah.
You will start to get weird on. I want to go home, right? I don't want to stay in this cell. I want to go home. It's like you have to hold out because they know I say, once you get weak, once you feel tired, you feel hungry, that's when you're going to do the things that they might, or
That's
just
when you cooperate.
yeah, just say this or whatever. So, I would try to tell people, but again, the kind of caliber of lawyer that I would tell a person having their phone is gonna be someone who, if you call them or they make that call and they're not available, that lawyer is gonna be good enough to say, I can't do it right now, but somebody know I'm going to take care of it, and somebody is gonna attend to you at the police station. So just hold tight. You understand?
Okay. And see people, me I freeze. Yeah, but so basically, people me carry a lawyer come here. Well, you're a
Legal expert, yes.
you're a legal expert. So you're so like you can put on the lawyer clothes one day, or you just chill.
What do you mean, action close?
No, when me say that, I mean like, can you legally be a lawyer if you
Oh
want?
no. So I have a law degree, but I haven't done that kind of practice course.
What they call it a bar.
Yeah, right, exactly. So the course is in two parts in the UK. I didn't do the second part, but it's open to.
Oh, if you want to do it, you can.
So I got kind of deeper involved in what I do now, and then I said, all right, let me just hold on.
Yeah.
And but again, that was a pathway that I managed to get a scholarship later on down the road to do that course. So I think there are, it is tough. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy in the road that I'm in. I always think about, do I want to be the lawyer in the courtroom, to be able to have that impact, but to also be kind of to show other people, that you can also
Do other things associated with it.
yeah, or do that work and things like that. So, I think it's just simple, right? Once we see more of our people doing certain things, it is an inspiration, and I think that, I think in some ways I want to bring a certain factor to this work as well, to say that this work is interesting, this work is cool, this is
Yeah, 'cause you travel.
Yeah, so you get for you travel like I said, I've been to so many places where I just thought, whoa, I wouldn't, having this experience. But because of the work that I do, it's not going to that place as a tourist, right? So it's meeting with the real people, understanding how real people live, what them eat, how they congregate with each other, what they do socially, and all these type of things. So it's a whole different experience. And then going to a certain country and you're just there at a hotel and you're there at a pool and stuff like that. So it's enriching, but at the same time, our organization is working to give some of the people from unrepresented communities that experience, to show them what we do, to bring them into this field so that they can do the similar type of work that I do.
All right. Well, I wish you the greatest and the most blessed. And I hope you stop enough people from dying.
Yeah, we're working on
Let's
it.
go and save some life.
Yes.
Yeah, but I just want to thank you for giving me the interview. When you reach out to me, I say, all right, this is definitely something where I'm interested in, something where we can show people, different sides, youth people, and use the platform where we have for good. Instead, me like a joke and thing, but me like to have like real conversations for things where no people are thinking about.
Yeah. I think I appreciate it. I mean, anyone who tell you that I am a big joker as well. But but I think with this, I think that's part of what I kind of bring to this work. The kind of within my organization, we have a thing that's called the vibe. And so what our vibe is do good whilst feeling good.
Yes.
Right. So to bring, even though you might be dealing with these situations, or you're listening to people and their hardship, you bring a certain energy. You get in a rental car, put on some music, say, yo, we're going to visit the client today, and bring some vibes, and and to bring that energy to the work, and just but I think also I appreciate you getting back to me on the time, because one thing that again happens sometimes in our community is that unless a person already big or them know him, we don't get the spotlight. And when you reach up there, you don't necessarily need it so much, right? So sometimes we don't get the exposure that we couldn't, really need for our work, which helps more people to know what we do, helps us to bring in funding, for doors to open. So I appreciate the chance to be on here, and anybody can reach out to you, reach out to me and just get in contact.
Christopher Chang can shout out, tell him your Instagram name. I'll put him Instagram name in the link bio. Anybody, he man say, if you don't want to know a liar, just message him. You don't need, just any lie. If you just want to know a liar, just message him. We find a liar for you. Because I know some people over here. Me talk about all the things like crime, immigration, or whatever. Me know there's different liars for everything. I don't know what I'm going to ask him about. But if you don't want to know a liar, in Instagram, I got in the description. And tell him your Instagram name for anybody who are listening, because people don't really read description.
Yeah, so, well, when I was in a certain life, them called me Yellow, or Yellow B. So my Instagram name is Jean Gorgon. But it's a play on words, because Jean is French for yellow.
Yeah.
And we used to call him Dan Gargan back in the day. So
Jean Gargan.
So that's the Instagram. We have a website for the organization, 255investigation.com. So, and people can reach out by email there and as well. But follow up the Instagram, you will see the
lifestyle.
Yeah, you will see my personal life, but you will see the
work where you do.
A lot of the times you will see why moving in between this country or that country, or you will see something going on and thing, and even just looking at the Instagram stories sometimes, I like a snapshot into the work we do and how we're moving around, and how tough it's been COVID, but now things kind of open up. So yeah, we appreciate. And as Dale say, if you don't subscribe yet, Just,
If it is subscribers, go do it, please.
yeah, man, just subscribe to the thing. You know?
Yeah, but
You know?
just go do
Yeah.
it.
How much things you get to do for free? Just subscribe.
And it's free right now.
Yeah, before it, you know.
Before me charge, you know. Before me, I joke, yeah. Yo, enough respect.
Yeah, and I also just want before we go, just big up Hannah from the project at FIU.
Real Jamaican name. I big up everybody, you know.
No, but if we start, then you know that go. But I just want to thank them for giving us this space today.
Oh,
And,
Hannah is in the background right now taking pictures. Hi, Hannah.
Yeah, so there was a whole English. You did well. You know, she's from Manchester, so it's a whole different accent, you know.
Yeah, man, me not bad. Me not bad. Me go on. You know, people, the voice was real and the reason is raw. I am out.